What's up, everybody? So the first IC in fourth house I want to go through is Aries. And some traits of Aries are that Aries is very independent. It can be rash, it can be impulsive, but it is also very innovative, and it's a pioneer of sorts. It's very active, and it's a very warlike energy as well. So we're going to start with that piece of it. So if you have an Aries IC or Aries in the fourth house, that means your home life and your childhood was very warlike in some sort of way. So you could literally be the son or daughter of someone who was in the military. So you could be an army brat moving from place to place. That is one thing. Even if there's no war or battles, it was a very stressful environment growing up because of the sign of Aries. Aries is all about fighting. And so when the IC is placed here, there are a lot of fights that aren't necessarily fights that you want to engage in, especially as a kid, because you just want to be a kid. So one of the biggest things growing up is that you had to fight for attention. You had to fight for recognition. You had to fight for, all of the things that you would normally want to receive just unconditionally as a child. So you weren't really nurtured all that much. Your emotions were pushed down. You had to be strong and masculine in your behavior. So as a result of that, you developed this very independent thinking, and this thinking of well, if I'm going to get anything, I need to seize it on my own, because no one's just going to give it to me. So either one of your parents or both of your parents did not really give you a lot of recognition. Even if you did something massive, they still just did not give it to you. And that can create a lot of frustration and a lot of anger that is just pent up and built over time. In a household like this, you could be an only child. You could also have a ton of other brothers and sisters that you were fighting for attention for in Aries in the fourth house and the IC. So, this became frustrating for you because you always had to fight. You always had to be in a battle to get that recognition and attention. And this could be as simple as you didn't eat as much as someone else did because you were smaller. Let's say you have a lot of brothers and sisters, and the biggest ones are going to eat first or eat more. So it's a very militant sort of household where your parents, even if you did something, a good job, you weren't necessarily praised for it. And that happens in the military as well. You could be doing a great job, from a civilian's point of view, but then your commanding officer is just yeah, that's what everyone has to do. Do something else. So it's this constant upping the ante in this household, which, can leave you really, really drained. But as a result of that, you become very independent. But you can hold a lot of pain and frustration and anger within you. So a good way to channel this is to do anything active. So quite possibly, you also grew up in an atmosphere of competition. So either there were sports on all the time in your home, or there were talk of competitions, or your dad or your mom was really rooting for a specific team, and that team was everything in the household, as an example. But you also probably grew up being an athlete, or wanting to be an athlete, and you wanted to channel this anger and this frustration. Now, whether or not you did, depends on other chart factors, but that is something that is really healthy for you to do, is to take all that anger and frustration and channel it into something. So at the very bottom of the chart, we have the IC, but at the top of the chart, we have the MC. And what we eventually want to do is transform the IC so that we can then go up to the MC, to our career, our mission, our destiny in life, to really fulfill that. So with Aries, the opposite of that is Libra. And so with Libra's all about relationships. And so this is very opposite of the IC because you weren't really exposed to a lot of like healthy relationships growing up. And so like in your career or out in the world, like you are craving that. You are craving like wanting to make relationships. And you know, you have a knack for getting people on your side because like you know how to play the game. You know how to play the rules. You have to act very instinctively and quickly as an Aries IC. So like you learned the rules fast, you learned what to do fast, you acted fast, and you got what you wanted pretty quickly. In the real world, it doesn't necessarily work like that because you have compromises you have to do, and you have other personalities that you have to, that you have to interact with and deal with, for better or for worse. And so, like with the Libra IC or MC, this is where like your career is really important, where like Libra careers are like justice or the arts. And it's not always just those, but those are two good examples. So you could literally take like this rage and this frustration and fight for someone or fight for a group of people in the court system or as a lawyer. You can also take all these emotions and express them within art. So like you could be an actor, you could be a painter, you could be a musician. It just, the sky is the limit as far as like, you know, the expression that this can take. But in some sort of way, you want to relate to other people. Now, all these emotions don't go away. And so what you've been taught is to be very stone-faced and just, you know, in the heat of battle, you don't show emotions because it makes you weak. And so one thing that you want to avoid with this is like, when you feel those emotions, like you have to channel it into something. You don't want to explode, but you also don't want to just conceal them so much that no one knows what you're going through, and then you get frustrated like on your own. Like one thing that's important is to figure out like how to channel these emotions. So like sports, anything active, all very, very important for that. But because you have so much going on, you have to be aware, constantly being aware of like, if someone pokes you or someone prods you in some sort of way, don't react to it. Just take it with a grain of salt, allow yourself to really be more objective in the situation, because the tendency can be, if you're poked enough, you will get rageful. And so like a good example of this is the mythological figure Achilles. So Achilles, for the most part, is pretty calm until he is provoked. And so like if you've seen the movie Troy, for the most part, Brad Pitt's like pretty calm in, you know, when he's not in battle. And he doesn't really want to battle all that much until he gets into the fight. And so like you could learn a lot from this, where like, but once he is like in the battle, he will not stop killing until like he absolutely wins and triumphs. You don't want to get to that point unless you're channeling it into something like kickboxing or martial arts or something like that, where like there is a good competition, there's a good competitive aspect to it. But for the most part, like you don't want that to happen like in your actual career space where you like, you know, flip your lid too much. So with that, it's really important with this position to figure out the battles that you want to fight. Anytime with Aries, it's really important to say like, okay, what is worth fighting for? What should I do? And you know, this is gonna come in your house of home. So like as you grow older and you have your own space, it's really important to say like, okay, it was a constant fight when I was growing up, but like what do I wanna fight for now? What is something I wanna fight for to have in my home or as my home or something like that? Maybe you want to move closer to the ocean. Maybe you want to move closer to the mountains. Like, but you are like, that is where your competitiveness can come in, where like you're finding ways to make your home yours, and you know, and allowing it to be like a positive expression of Aries rather than like this negative expression that everything's a fight, everything's a battle. So picking the right battles and picking the right fights is really, truly very important. And to go back to Achilles, one thing that Achilles was told by his mother, who was a goddess, was that he could either go to Troy, fight the Trojans, and be remembered forever, to be recognized, or he could stay in Larissa is what it's called, and he could have a family, he could have kids, but he would be forgotten once his lineage died down. So he picked to go to Troy. He picked the right battle for himself because he wanted that recognition, he wanted that respect, he wanted all of that glory. And you know, that's something to consider as an Aries IC, like, where can I get the recognition that I truly deserve and that I truly want? Because ultimately, like, underneath all of the independence and the bravado and everything, you do want recognition. You do want someone to say, like, man, you did a good job and that was great and I'm so proud of you. Like, saying I'm so proud of you can go a long way if you know an Aries IC or even if you are one. So pick the right fights as an Aries IC. Hope you enjoyed this one. We will have Taurus up next, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Peace.